he's not going to be able to just tee off on southpaws as easy as he is against an orthodox fighter. Khalil Rountree might be twice as fast as Alex Pereira and anybody that he's fought. He's super open for a left high kick, especially from a southpaw. If Alex goes for a jab to the body and Khalil can whip a nasty, super quick left high kick, I think he can knock him out with that. Khalil Rountree and Alex Pereira just had one of the best fights I have ever witnessed in my life. It was an absolute war, incredible striking exchanges from beginning to end. Both guys looked absolutely incredible in there. They both showed really good performances and definitely fight of the year in my opinion. Like, there were some other ones that were really good this year, like John Silva and Drew Dober, Islam Makhachev, Dustin Poirier. But in my opinion, Khalil Rountree and Alex Pereira is the fight of the year. That was absolutely incredible. I was on the edge of my seat, heart fluttering, could barely even take a breath during that fight. It was so incredibly exciting and, you know, just fight of the year, everything that you want in a fight, absolute war. Both of these guys, you know, went through adversity, got hurt, and it was just amazing. I hope that every single one of you enjoyed it as much as I did. But going into this fight, everybody, and I mean everybody, was counting out Khalil Rountree. The unanimous pick for this main event in this card was Alex Pereira by round 1 KO, Alex Pereira by whatever he wants, Alex Pereira within 2 rounds without even taking a punch. You know, people didn't even think that Khalil Rountree stood any chance of having any success in this fight. And I picked Khalil Rountree. I honestly don't think that anybody else, like on YouTube that I saw at least, or on Instagram, picked Khalil Rountree at all. And, you know, I believed in him. I really did believe in him. I mean, look at my last video. It was literally titled, I Believe in Khalil Rountree. And I picked him to win via TKO within the first 2 rounds. And, you know, people thought that that pick was crazy, but look, he made that shit close as fuck. He won the first 2 rounds, and I know that everybody that's a huge Pereira fan and that picked him, they were shitting their pants, because Khalil Rountree went in there and did exactly as good as I thought he would do, and he had success in the ways that I thought he would. I could tell just based off of the eye test that Khalil is the fastest opponent that Pereira has ever fought, and he showed that speed. He was landing good combinations, 2 threes on the chin, 3 twos, mixing up the straights and the hooks really well, landing on Pereira clean. But, you know, Pereira at 205, he's got a good chin now at 205 without that weight cut, and he was also doing really good at pulling and slipping out of the way of shots, just narrowly rolling with the punch, just to where it wouldn't connect flush enough to hurt him. And, you know, I also made the point that Alex, his main, you know, success that he would have in this fight would be because of his height advantage. Because, you know, tit for tat, with Khalil being a southpaw, I knew that it would be really hard for Pereira in this matchup. Wasn't landing his jab to the body, wasn't able to use the low kicks, and those are his 2 main weapons. And we got a dogfight because of it. You know, I even called that head kick that Khalil landed. I literally said in my last video, you know, Pereira dips his head a lot when he's slipping and when he throws his jab to the body. Khalil being in that open stance, if he throws that high kick, he could land it, and he damn sure landed that shot. And that was a pretty good call out from me. And if he would have KO'd him with that, shit would have gone insanely viral. That would have been the 3rd head kick TKO in Utah for a crazy upset that we would have had. And of course, in the 2nd round, he stumbled him after, you know, Pereira, he threw a high kick, and Khalil, you know, he put his guard up to try and Dutch block it, cross block it, and it skimmed over him, and he just let off a gnarly fucking check right hook, nailing Pereira as Pereira was not facing him, and he stumbled him for a minute and dropped him to his knees. And, you know, won the first round with his activity. He was blitzing, you know, the speed and the open stance was giving Pereira issues. But, you know, Pereira, he had done his entire camp in Utah. I don't think that Khalil even went out there until like a week and a half before the fight, which was definitely a mistake because you could tell that he started to gas out really bad in rounds 3 and 4. But that also, you know, comes down to the fact that Pereira was digging some nasty right leg front kicks to the solar plexus of Khalil Rountree, dig into the body with uppercuts and hooks. And, that absolutely drained Khalil's gas tank. And after the second round, I knew that if Khalil was going to win this fight, it would have to be with his explosivity and catching Pereira off guard early, which was not a bad read. Nobody thought he was going to do as well as he did, but I had faith in my man Khalil, and he put on a hell of a fucking fight. Even though he didn't win, it feels like I got the pick right, honestly. But, round 3, Pereira, he went Guerrero mode, and, he went round 5 versus Izzy Guerrero mode and just started laying the kitchen sink on Khalil, hurting him bad, slipping shots. He just completely entered a flow state. And, Khalil got tired. Pereira, having done his entire camp in Utah, his gas tank was still good. He had thrown a lot of output and was having difficulty, but really didn't look winded whatsoever. Pereira's cardio is one of the most underrated aspects of his game. He can go 25 minutes and still have that KO power late into the fight, even at altitude. It's insane. His cardio is great. And, he just entered a flow state. Khalil was trying to catch him and counter him as he was coming in and closing that distance. But Pereira is just so overpowered using his length and just his head movement. He was sniping Khalil, leaning back, pull, counter right hand. And, in that 4th round, he just completely entered a flow state, entered the matrix, and finished Khalil Rountree in emphatic fashion. It reminded me of, how Islam Makhachev rallied late into the fight to beat Dustin Poirier and finish him late. So, some of these champions that we have now are just absolutely insane, super impressive, and we're blessed to be in this era of the UFC. But, Pereira, in that 4th round, really showed levels and showed that he is, without a doubt, the best striker in UFC history. It's not even close. The knees to the chin that he was landing against Khalil. Khalil showed heart. He was really trying to get on his bike and use footwork to be able to survive and make it into round 5. But, he had a full minute after he got wobbled with that right hand, and it was just too much. Because once Pereira knows he gets you hurt, it's fight over because he's going to go in for the kill. But both of these guys showed absolute incredible heart. It was definitely fight of the year, one of the most entertaining fights I've ever watched. And I'm really proud of Khalil Rountree. He was a massive underdog in this fight, 4-1 underdog. And, I knew he would have success in this fight. And he gave Pereira a lot of trouble, dropped him with that right hook, wobbled him with that head kick. And, a lot of people aren't mentioning this. He landed a flush left kick to the liver that hurt Pereira. And Pereira got up against the fence and he was like, oh, for a second. It was a crazy fucking fight. And, I normally don't even make recap videos, but after that fight, absolutely insane. I had to come on here and, give props to both of those fighters and just give my thoughts on that fight because it was just an absolute gunfight, World War III war. Loved it. Every single second of it was just like a gladiator in real life movie, absolute cinema, one of the best fights I've ever seen in my life. And, all these fighters, like Guru has mentioned this, all these fighters like Merab Bilal and Mario Bautista should be ashamed of yourself, to be honest, because you're not a fighter at all at heart. You don't really want to go out there and scrap. You want to push someone against the fence. And that's going to lead me into the second topic of this video. This card was absolutely dog shit. The Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Joaquin Buckley fight, I'll give them credit. They put on a pretty good performance, both of them. Unfortunately, Wonderboy got chinned. That was hard to watch. You can't be going out here knocking out the legends. You gotta give him the tip of the cap. But, nah, I gotta give Buckley credit. He put on a really good performance as well. And he went out there on his shield and made it an entertaining fight versus a legend in Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. So you gotta give him credit for that. Even though it was sad to see Wonderboy go out, that's what Joaquin Buckley needs to do to make it entertaining for the fans and further his career. A fighter that could definitely take some notes from Joaquin Buckley is Mario Bautista. Mario Bautista should be put in a jail cell, in prison for life, never to be heard from again, solitary confinement in the deepest, darkest cell at the fucking bottom of Alcatraz for what he did to Jose Aldo last night. He shouldn't have even gotten the fucking fight to begin with. Hunter Campbell belongs in the jail cell next to Mario Bautista for the absolute shamble that this card was as a whole, and the matchup of Mario Bautista and Jose Aldo to begin with is absolutely criminal. I mean, dude, Hunter Campbell should be ashamed of he should be ashamed of himself. You should be ashamed of yourself for what you put Jose Aldo through last night and what you put the fans through last night in the creation of this card. But let me talk about Mario Bautista before I rant about how shit the card was. Mario Bautista in the cage with a legend, should have never even been in there, should have never even gotten the fight. Hunter Campbell belongs in a jail cell, like I said. But, you know, we have Bautista versus Aldo. I picked Aldo to get it done. I knew for a fact that Mario Bautista was not going to be able to take Jose Aldo down, and he did not a single time. He's not good enough to take Jose Aldo down. If Merab can't take him down, what the fuck makes you think you'd be able to? It's not going to happen. But, you know, he's stupid, he's redundant, and he kept going for it even though it wasn't working. And Jose Aldo was trying to put on an entertaining fight, you know, was landing his good boxing combinations. And Mario Bautista would push him against the fence, dive at the legs, and stall out the fight. He stalled out the entirety of that fight. Every single exchange on the feet in the second and third rounds, he was getting busted up. I even called how Jose Aldo would probably cut him just because of the power differential. You know, Mario Bautista in the biggest fight of his life absolutely shit his pants. You know, couldn't impose any effective grappling, couldn't take Jose Aldo down, and he couldn't strike with him. But unlike in the Ihor Pereira and Cesar Almeida fight, on the bottom of the card where nobody gives a fuck, you know, you're not fucking calling this out and stopping the stalling. If the same ref would have been reffing the Jose Aldo fight as the Cesar Almeida and Ihor Pereira fight, Jose Aldo would have won. But they absolutely fucked him. You know, Mario Bautista, like an absolute coward, a pussy, just dove for the legs, held him against the fence, imposed no damage, did no damage whatsoever. None of his strikes were impactful. They were little pitter-pat shots. Jose Aldo was sitting down on hard hooks, good right hands, straight to the nose. And Mario Bautista went in there and stunk it up, pushed him against the fence, fought like an absolute bitch. You know, never ever even dropped down to try and get a single leg. He knew he wasn't going to be able to get it, but he would just sit there and stink it up against the fence. You know, you look at a guy like Joaquin Buckley. He wasn't able to hold Stephen Wonderboy Thompson down and control him and win that way. And, you know, instead of just trying to hold Wonderboy against the fence, you know what he does? He goes out there and swings big, meaty hooks and gets himself a fucking KO. And he's going to move up in the division, and everybody's going to remember that moment for Buckley imposing his will. Mario Bautista couldn't get any takedowns, was landing nothing but pitter-pat pussy shots on the feet. And instead of going, you know what, look, I'm not going to be able to take him down. I'm stalling this fight in the biggest moment of my career. What do I want? What do I want, you know, Dana and Sean Shelby and Hunter to be looking at going forward in my career to give me a good matchup? What do I want the fans to think after this fight? Should I posture up and try and go for the KO in round 3 and get a highlight reel for my career and maybe take the role of a heel? Or should I just stink it up, have a horrible, completely unimpressive performance, and disrespect a legend in Jose Aldo and, you know, completely ruin the fight? That was like one of the only good fights on the card other than the main event, and you absolutely ruined it. So you should be ashamed of yourself. The ref should have gotten, you know, involved much earlier, like they did in the Ihor Pereira versus Cesar Almeida fight and the Sean O'Malley versus Merab fight. But, you know, these people nowadays think that it's cool to, you know, just stall against the cage, and they think that it's like super high level MMA, dude. People, you should just go watch Muay Thai and kickboxing if you just want to watch striking, bro. This is MMA, man. This is MMA, man. Chill. Like, dude, shut the fuck up. You look at a guy like, you know, Charles Oliveira. You look at a guy like Islam Makhachev. Even a guy like Volk. You know, posturing up, landing nasty ground and pound shots after, shooting a big explosive double leg. That's entertaining grappling. Charles Oliveira almost fucking choking out Arman Sarukian multiple times, edge of your seat, biting your nails. That's entertaining grappling. Effective grappling, fight-ending grappling. Islam Makhachev hitting the craziest fucking leg drag and Darce choke on Dustin Poirier in round 5 after a war. That's impressive and effective grappling. This fucking stupid, nut-hugging coward shit that these guys are getting away with now should be punished. And, yeah. So, Peyton Talbot, Montel Jackson, Adrian Yanez, somebody please go in there and absolutely fucking mince, starch, and leave him bloody on the canvas, Mario Bautista. Dude, if Peyton Talbot goes in there and fucking KOs this man, I would love that shit. That would be one of my favorite moments in MMA history after what he did to Aldo. So, yeah, I think we should sacrifice Mario Bautista to Peyton Talbot. Let Peyton Talbot, head kick KO him and leave him dead on the canvas for all I care. And, yeah, that should be Mario Bautista's fate. And if he doesn't get sacrificed to Peyton Talbot, put him in a jail cell for the rest of his life in solitary confinement, because that's what he deserves. And, Hunter Campbell, UFC 307 was absolutely dog shit. You should be ashamed of yourself for even putting on those matchups. It was absolutely horrible. I watched the event in a public place. People were falling asleep. During the main card, during the WMMA fights. Kevin Holland versus Roman Dolidze. I mean, are you kidding me? That's just like the classic cop-out fight that you just throw on a main card because you can't get anything better. And it's just we got Kevin Holland on the main card, badass fight. It's just fucking pathetic. It's a cop-out. And I knew just looking at that matchup, I don't know if anybody else got this vibe, but I just knew as soon as I saw Kevin Holland versus Roman fucking Dolidze, I knew that shit was going to be some fuckery from the get-go. I knew that was not going to be a clean fight whatsoever. And what do you know? Kevin Holland fucking breaks his rib. And, the only other possibility of a half-decent fight or maybe a finish, doesn't happen. But, that was to be expected, at least from me, because, Kevin Holland and Roman Dolidze in a fight, that's like, fucking throwing a toaster in a bathtub. Never going to work out well whatsoever. Mario Bautista versus Jose Aldo. Like I said, Hunter Campbell should be put in a jail cell to rot for the rest of his life for making that fight. Jose Aldo deserved, Henry Cejudo matchup. Two legends, Olympic wrestling versus the best takedown defense in UFC history. Book it. Two former champs. One of the best featherweights of all time versus, Triple C. It sells itself. Dominic Cruz versus Jose Aldo. These aren't, complicated decisions to make. But, Hunter Campbell diarrheaed out, absolutely just shitted out in the most disgusting fashion. Mario Bautista versus Jose Aldo. And, the UFC doesn't give a fuck about their legends. Jose Aldo got fucked over miserably. Robbed in his fight. And Hunter Campbell, put on an absolutely shit card. UFC 307 was dog shit. Both of the WMMA fights were, I was kind of struggling to stay awake, if I'm going to be honest. It was 2 in the damn morning and I was edge of my seat, heart pounding, adrenaline rushing through my fucking veins watching the main event. The entire rest of the card, other than Buckley and Stephen Thompson, was absolutely horrible. I mean, Court McGee got him a sub, but, 2 old heads going at it. Somebody's body is going to give out first. And it was, poor Tim Means, his neck probably went out on him. Cesar Almeida and Pateria stunk it up. The WMMA fights were not anything to remember. Alexander Hernandez versus Hubbard, not really anything to remember. The rest of the card just was not good. And, these are the type of pay-per-views that, drive fans away from the sport, because nobody in their right minds wants to stay up till 2 a.m. to watch one good fight. That's like boxing card level shit. It's kind of pathetic. And, for a pay-per-view, I expect better. Thankfully, Turkey and the fucking Saudis with their oil money have 308 looking fantastic. So no complaints on that. But, Hunter Campbell should be put in a jail cell for how bad UFC 307 was. he should be put in a jail cell for making Mario Bautista versus Jose Aldo. And Mario Bautista belongs in a jail cell for not fighting. You know, Mario Bautista's mentality going into that match, because he probably wasn't even looking at it like a fight. You know, he was thinking about it as a match, a competition. His mentality going in there was, I don't want to lose this competition, not I want to win this fight. You understand what I mean. That's all that needs to be said. Khalil Rountree and Alex Pereira, thank you for making this sport great. Fighters like you are the reason people love this sport. Super inspirational. Love it. Mario Bautista and Hunter Campbell belong in a jail cell. Thank you guys for watching the video. Have a great rest of your day.